It's war, rolling Atlas dog. We here to bring the truth. Jar, open this podcast. We breaking through the fake news. They try to silence us, but we will be subdued. We're bearded alpha males here to save the youth. Spitting fire on the mic with the bass, Christian takes. Exposing the lies, keeping the demons at bay. We ain't afraid to speak up. We won't be swayed. Jar, open this podcast where the truth is laid. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas dog. We're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. We ain't playing games, we're on a mission to awaken the masses with our intuition. Pulling out the corruption with no inhibition. Draw open this podcast, sparking a revolution. We're not afraid to stand tall in a world full of deceit. We're the voice of reason, bringing light to the street. Keeping it real, never missing a beat. Jar openers podcast, where the truth meets the heat. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas dog, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. Jar openers podcast, where the truth will never cease. Join us on the journey to bring back peace. We're rolling Atlas dog, fearless in our release. Jar openers podcast, where the lies will decrease.
All right. Oh, let me turn the slide on.
Howdy.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? Welcome in. Hello, fellow jar openers and ladies. Welcome to the Jar Openers podcast. Here we dive into the heart of American politics and culture. I'm Tyler, and he's Atlas.
Yes, sir.
We're celebrating a strong Christian foundation to make and keep America strong, free, and united. Let's see here. So, what up, dude?
You see it, man. Obviously not happy with the ongoing situation of what's happening in terms of the foreign conflict going on. But, doing okay in personal life, I guess. And one thing that I thought about too, which was kind of wild, in terms of the Trump and the Elon and all this kind of just chaos going on.
Yeah.
Was something that I started seeing on a lot of the comments on my live stream from yesterday, and even seeing more so on X today, which was people are now kind of connecting the whole Elon dropping the bomb on, Trump's on the Epstein list just a couple of days before all this kicked off. And so now there's a lot of people kind of posing, is there any kind of relationship there, right? Was that maybe kind of a signal to say, hey, deep state still owns you. Don't forget that. Just something to think about. But overall, not happy with the current situation of things. But how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm pretty good. Life has been pretty decent lately, I can say that. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about this evening. Mainly this whole Ted Cruz debate with Tucker Carlson. I think it wasn't supposed to be an interview, but it is more of a debate. It got a little hostile at times. It was fun, and if you didn't see it, if you haven't watched it in its entirety, I highly recommend watching the entire thing. Of course, we're not going to cover the entire thing, but we are going to have a look at a bunch of segments, and it's probably the best highlights. We're going to break some of it down. Have an excellent post saved here from Jason Whitlock, kind of going further in depth on one of the references to that Ted Cruz used, and which I think is a common misconception or something that's regularly confused within the Christian base as far as their support for Ben Shapiro's favorite country. And so it was excellent how it related, and I'm looking forward to delving into that whole conversation that went down, man. It was crazy. I watched the whole thing this afternoon. I don't know if you did. Did you get a chance to watch the whole show? So
I watched a bunch of the segments, like from the morning throughout, gathering stuff together for the outline, but I didn't see the whole thing. I only probably seen like 45 minutes of it.
Okay. So you saw still a good segment there.
Yeah, I saw the majority of it. Yeah, especially all the ones that are, going viral online. All of those clips, I've definitely seen those.
Nice. Give a shout out here to King Solo Wings, Jay. Who else we got in chat? House, Jamie, Fozimo. Good to see everybody.
And Still don't get notifications from my live atlas. Yeah, it's why I set up the Discord the way I did. So at least you can get notified there. But also, Fosmo saying be careful playing the Ted and the Tucker debate. Anomaly got taken down momentarily while playing it. Hopefully with us not being monetized, it probably won't be as strong of an ATS on the channel. But again, we have the overlay there, so hopefully, being transformed a little bit will help. Not sure how Anomaly might have played it though. He might have done the same thing and still got caught. Hopefully, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, if I have to keep it small on the window, even like a window within a window, we'll go there.
Yeah.
The main thing is, you can follow this just by listening. You don't even need to see the actual back and forth. You can envision two guys having a conversation.
It
Hey,
is
what's
true.
up,
We
Bill?
just see audio.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Bill? What's up, Shep? Good to see you guys.
Yep. Nice to see you guys in here. Yeah, I do appreciate it. I hate these glasses, by the way, but I need them because I stare at a screen for, 12 hours a day anymore. My
Yeah.
retinas are fried. I cannot even begin to explain to you how bad my eyesight's getting.
Have you tried the eye drops? I think I mentioned them to you. I got some eye drops that are supposed to help with blue light.
No, I didn't do any of the drops at all. I actually did see somewhere that if you do wear glasses, so these aren't prescription glasses, right? These are just blue blockers. But if you have glasses, some people recommend to just not wear the glasses, and just have a more raw when you're on the screen, which to me is still hard because I have a hard time looking at stuff. But it is what it is. It comes with it. I need to start turning brightness down on things and maybe sit further away from the computer. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, I had to turn my light off. I'm highlighted here by my screens.
Yeah, getting burnt by the by the LED.
Yo, what up, Donnie? But yeah, so we're gonna talk about the Ted Cruz Tucker Carlson interview. We're gonna look into this back and forth that happened on The View. A couple of different situations where, anytime the cackling hens, no offense to the chickens out back, get dissed on their own show. We're gonna check that out. That's another thing we got to be careful of. They like to copyright their shit, but
Right.
like you said, we're not monetized. They're not paying that close of attention to us yet, so we should be all right. But regardless, if we can't make money off of it, we don't anyway.
Right, exactly.
I don't think it's anything that they'll yank the actual stream down. But if they do, for some reason, we'll pull it right back up, right? And we'll finish the show. What else we got here? And then, some of the updates and developments of what's going on over in the Israel and Iran conflict. This whole debacle caused by Taylor Lorenz. I think it was caused by her. I'm not real sure. I know that it was already kind of going on, and I think she highlighted this Roblox story, and it brought out. I don't know. We'll get to it whenever we get there. But it's really funny.
Ridiculous story.
Mass protests, no kings protest type stuff being organized within the Roblox game, and it took a funny turn that definitely worth talking about.
Yeah. No, there's probably some footage on X we can find of it too. To be honest, it's kind of funny.
Right. I didn't even think of looking for
12-year-olds.
footage. Yeah, I probably could find it pretty easily. So yeah, let's get into this first one here. I have a feeling we're not gonna have enough time to basically cover everything, so let's just get right into it.
Yeah, we'll start with the Tucker stuff, right? Ted Cruz, Tucker Carlson. I think what it was 2 p.m. They released the full debate from Tucker on YouTube and from his network on X as well. But the reason why it went so overtly kind of viral was Tucker generally puts out a little kind of snippet, right? Like a trailer.
And we'll play the trailer to start it off too.
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. And it was just from the trailer, right? I think somebody had, you can pull the video and post it on your own. It'll still say from Tucker Carlson, whatever. I can't remember which account did it, but grabbed it and basically highlighted what's going on in the clip. Had 500,000 likes on it, had a bunch of views. And it was two-faceted, right? And we'll get to it obviously, but it was kind of like the Gary Johnson Aleppo moment. But in there beyond that was the fact of the slip, which was when he says we. But we'll get into it when we watch it. It just
Yeah.
again, crazy
I
thing.
caught it. Did you catch it live when he said that?
I know I saw it on the clip. I saw it on the
okay.
clip last night when he posted it. I don't know if it was from his page I saw it from, or if it was from the TCN, which is the Tucker Carlson network.
Okay. I knew Donnie would say this.
Yeah, I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it.
By the way, let me put chat back on the screen. Then it
Give
just
me one
make that
second, I need to
default.
blow my nose real quick. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, you're good. So let's see here. I think those are 2 pieces. Oh. Tucker let me down. TNT. Oh, what up, TNT? Says Tucker let me down. I like asking hard questions, but the gotcha bullshit, I thought he was above. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I see it the same way. TNT. I don't know, man. I didn't see it as gotcha stuff, but he did admit to being like a pessimist or antagonistic or whatever. But I don't know. Maybe no. I'll keep my mind open when we re-listen to some of these. He's just gonna let him dominate you like that.
It's funny. Yeah, take the
As
shirt
the
off.
show goes on, all of a sudden you'll just notice that my shirt like creeps down and changes.
Yeah. No, it's well, here's the thing. Like anyone who's familiar with Tucker Carlson, like this is generally like how he has contentious interviews, right? You go back to Piers Morgan, you go back to Putin, you go back to so many of those interviews. He has this kind of like happy but angry kind of stance, right? Where it's almost kind of passive aggressive.
Yeah.
I really don't find it as a gotcha. I think that's kind of a talking point coming down. The same way that these same people who cheer on Charlie Kirk when he's like destroying a 19-year-old because she doesn't know the difference between terminating a pregnancy and abortion, these people clap for. But when Tucker does it to Ted on this issue, everyone's like, wow, see, he's doing a gotcha. I just think it's weak. I think it's just weak, especially in the overall context of what was talked about here. They're just trying to find a way to poison the well. Be like, Tucker's doing a bad. Guys, Tucker's doing a bad. Don't listen to Tucker. And it's just like, come on. We're better than this. Just listen to the actual contents.
Right. So, it's funny. I'm hesitant to tell you my general takeaway, like right now from the whole thing. I'm wondering if I should wait because I don't want to frame it. But I will just point out that I think it's funny that Ted Cruz has made it a certain point of why he's doing this, why he's a senator, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I just have to save it because, like I said, I don't want to frame it. But we'll start this off. This was the preview that they gave us.
Because that'll be clip number 5.
Yeah, I was going to say.
What you're getting at is actually clip number 5 we'll get to. It'll be the point that you were getting ready to bring up. Right.
Okay, cool. I was going to say, I clicked through the stuff that you put in there and I added a few other things to go along with them. But yeah, okay, we'll just start with this. And this was the trailer they put out. I'm not worried about getting copyrighted for this one. This was the one that they put out for everybody.
How many people live in Iran, by the way? I don't know the population at all.
Audio okay, everybody? Let me know, please, in the chat.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay.
No, I don't know the population. You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah.
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's,
because
it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay,
it's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
Who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here, because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not
at all.
bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
This is
Israel.
high stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
Like, I feel like, yeah, he's being a little bit of an antagonist, but words matter. You have to be very specific when you are a congressman talking about matters like war. When you say we or I or they, very specific. So, maybe Ted Cruz isn't as good a public speaker after 19 years in politics as we thought, or maybe he actually accidentally said the truth, which is, the United States is actually involved more than what they're coming off as, or whatever. But
following like
it just begs the question, like, what do you mean? It doesn't necessarily, you know what I mean? It just turns into another question, basically. So sorry.
No, you're good. There's a lot of videos coming out now. Now, I'm not sure if Valhalla VFT was the first one to point it out. I don't think they were, but they did make a pretty good video about it. Many people are joining in the fact that Diego Garcia, the U.S. had moved B-2 bombers at some point April, so April 19th or April 11th, something like that, way ahead of all of this going on. And based on the evidence that they had seen, Valhalla had made an argument based on one of the group of the high brass officials of the Iranians who were targeted and then confirmed killed, supposedly would have been at some level in an underneath bunker. And to get to that bunker, the only bomb of our belief, of what we know, would have been the bunker buster that we have called the FOAP, which is, I believe, the GPU-57. But the only plane that can drop that is
they
the
can carry
B-2
it.
Spirit bomber. It's the only one. And then people now pointed out the fact that the B-2 bombers there in Diego Garcia possibly could have been the ones that were used to bust the bunker that got, and I can't remember which two specific officials it was, but supposedly separate from the MITs, or not the MITs, their nuclear facility, these guys were killed. And so he makes the argument, many other people do, that the U.S. has already been involved. It's just like, it's just not out there.
Okay. Interesting. I didn't hear that part. Let's see here. Where did it go? Bosimo says, has Ted ever been to Iran?
He's never been. And one thing to add to this too, which is, you'll get this kind of as we go through this, right? The crux of, the motivation for why we're doing this hinges on a Christian belief. But let's go to a legitimate Christian belief, which is that all human life is valuable. And here you have Ted Cruz making an argument that because of his Christian beliefs, he thinks X, which is why, and then he begins to say, who cares if it's 90 or 80 or 70? And it's like, no Christian just talks like tens of millions of human lives like that, as if it doesn't matter in terms of something. And again, this whole interview is framed as why Ted Cruz wants regime change in Iran. This isn't why Ted Cruz doesn't want Iran to have nukes. This isn't why Iran wants peace in the Middle East. This is Ted Cruz going to the whole length, which is what we don't want from the forever wars, which is the regime change and destabilization efforts. But he makes this argument as if tens of millions of Iranians across the earth don't matter.
Right, like exactly. And, one of the reasons why we don't want destabilization in Iran is what it has, like a population of 90 million or something like that, I think is what he says here.
Yeah.
And, Europe already has a refugee crisis. The United States, we're cutting off the borders. You know what I'm saying? Like, lots of people that are America first want, 4, 8, 10-year moratorium on all immigration, not even just, just everybody, not even just letting the illegals in, which is funny to saying letting the illegals in. But so, yeah, definitely. That is why, and also additionally to that is why Trump, supposedly, we just take people for their words. This is the stories that Trump stopped Israel from killing the leader there in Iran. So, he is saying that we're tracking him. We know where he is. And that's to the point that I've been saying for the past few shows, which is, Israel, Mossad has been tracking these people. We've learned from just what we've experienced over the last couple months with the pagers, with everything. They're very forward thinking. They're embedded deeply within the ranks of terror cells to Iranian government.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, it's something that Ted Cruz talks about in this interview. I don't know if we actually have any of those particular clips. I didn't see any, but he actually in this interview talks about spying within our own country on our government from our allies and adversaries, and seems to be rather okay with it, which I think is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
number 4.
Okay, so it isn't here. That's great.
Yep.
And so it just makes me wonder, if they're so deep in all these other places, obviously they're that deep here, and that goes way beyond APAC, which whatever, that's funded by civilians. And I don't know, like, you just have to understand the Ben Shapiro's culture and how they have their communities within the community to like understand the broader scheme and of what that means. But
Right.
this is the second video we got for you. Ted Cruz tries to use the Bible to justify his support for Israel's bombing, which is right up our alley here.
Right. And I did see Jason Whitlock's response too. I thought it was pretty solid.
I added that to the outline. I don't know if you clicked on that or not, but yeah, it was pretty awesome. And I have those verses pulled up when we get to it, so we can kind of break that down a little bit too.
Yeah.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my. You pull out the phone and use the.
It's in Genesis, but so you're.
Sorry, I just have to cut in real quick there. So many times throughout this interview, Tucker knows more specifics about the topic that Ted Cruz is talking about. And when Ted Cruz invoked the topic, it's not even like a gotcha or anything like that. It's like Ted Cruz says something, brings up a topic. Tucker's like, well, what about that? Or what you're trying to say is this. And it's just like, he knows better than you do what you're trying to say. It's just like,
right.
Really, it seems to me like this came across to me like an adult having a conversation with a child. I don't know. I know there's people on both sides of this, but this one, I'm still going to reserve my final thoughts. Let's just continue.
Quoting a Bible phrase, you don't have context for it, and you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker.
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two,
hold on.
I'm not holding on.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But what, hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
And so is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
the
God's referring to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes,
it is. Okay.
And by the way, it's not run by Benjamin Netanyahu as a dictator. It's a democratic country that elected.
But he's the prime minister,
right?
What?
But just like America is the country run by Donald Trump. No, actually, the American people elected Donald Trump. The same principle.
This is silly. I'm talking about the political entity of modern Israel.
Yes, and that is
believe
Israel.
That's what God was talking about in Genesis.
I do, but
that country's existed since when?
For thousands of years. Now, there was a time when it didn't exist, and then it was recreated just over 70 years ago.
I'm saying, I think most people understand that line in Genesis to refer to the Jewish people, God's chosen people.
That's not what it says.
Okay. Israel, but you don't even know where in the Bible it is.
Right.
And I just think it's so funny, like right there, Tucker's like, well, you're referring to these verses here. We got Jason Whitlock's response, and he just this is his response to the same clip, so we won't replay it. But he says, "Good stuff, Senator Cruz. Genesis 12:3 is a promise to Abraham and his offspring, fulfilled by Jesus Christ. Galatians 3:16. The New Testament defines Israel as the church." Okay, not the government, not some government established in 1948. Mr. Cruz, the religion you're quoting is Zionism, not Christianity. And so I just thought that was so great. And here, let's have a look at what Genesis 12:3 actually states. It says, I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you. And in you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Right? And then following that up with Galatians 3:16, that says, the Lord hath said to Abraham, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all people on earth will be blessings through you. Wait, did I? Hang on a second. I just reread the same one. I just read a longer version of it. I'm sorry.
You could have been thinking so.
I have my tabs left to right, and I started on the middle one instead of the left one. So my bad. But yeah, that was just a more in-depth version of the same verse, right? So then we move on to Galatians 3:16, and now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He does not say, and to seeds, as of many, but as of one, and to your seed, who is Christ. So from what I understand, the context is the Apostle Paul's writing to the Galatians, addressing issues of faith and law. He uses Abraham as the example of justification by faith, arguing the salvation comes through belief in Christ, not by adhering to the law.
Yeah.
So,
and House brings up a good point too, which is, we didn't even see any of this kind of change of belief until the beginning of the early 1900s. This new kind of form of, I guess what you would call just Zionism, right? More loosely referred to as dispensationalism as well, has, basically, is a heresy. This is actually way different from basically all of, a couple of thousand, years of Christian doctrine. You go and look pre, 1900 and anything. None of this is there at all. And again, you got to link this again to the Scofield Bible. The Scofield Bible, again, was a Bible that was funded and financed, backed, written by Darby Scofield, I believe is his name, or translated and interpreted and put in with his notes as well, but with the bias of dispensationalism. So he added that in there. And so all of his kind of interpretations have the Zionism in there. And then funny enough, I'm not sure how, I think I need to be fact checked on this. Maybe House has a better idea. But some level of it was funded and financed by the Rothschilds. And I believe even Carol explored this too a little bit as well, which it goes into, a bit of a deeper rabbit hole there too. But again, if you look at any kind of old, archifactal, old Christian doctrine, right? You go to like the 1800s, the 1700s, 1600s, 1500s, all of it speaks to the fact of what Jason Whitlock said there, not what Ted Cruz is espousing to Tucker Carlson, which is, again, it's a recent phenomenon and speaks to what I kind of talk about all the time, which is that Christianity has been, co-opted and subverted. And this is why you can track, you go to Google search terms, why Judeo-Christian didn't start getting used until after 1945. And so there's a lot of these links there that obviously kind of relate and is the argumentative motivation for why most people support the nation state of the created state of Israel. And this kind of bridges the gap and gives you the foundation of, okay, this is why all of these things, are happening. This is why we are on this path right now, and why you see so many Christian nationalists like Jay Dyer and Andrew Wilson vehemently get angry when you have so many politicians pushing this, because when they argue on theology, they're like, these guys have it completely wrong. Like, this isn't in the Bible. There's X, Y, and Z reason why this is heretical for all these different reasons. And again, I'm not a theologian, but this is kind of the opening part. And again, I think this is really going to highlight the split of MAGA, as we go through. And I think we already will get involved with Iran. Don't want to black pill, but I think that more than likely that's what's going to happen.
Right. And, it's weird because, pretty much, MAGA was sold, or at least this part of it was sold to people. The No New Wars was a big factor. It was repeated a lot during Trump's first term, repeated after his first term of some of the things that he's got done. And then, one of the things that he ran on. But he also said the whole time that Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb, cannot be reach that level of research and uranium enrichment and everything like that, right?
Hold on, I gotta close my door real quick. It's really windy. My bad.
No, you're good. You're good. And just to take another step further, Trump did. He was very surgical with his missile strikes in his first term. We know that he took out, Soleimani and Baghdadi, I think, were two of the guys. Very surgical and intentional. Didn't involve any men on the ground, anything like that, right? And so just took care of the problem. And this is, quite different. But I don't know. It's weird. It's not like declaring war. Congress never declares war, that's for sure. So it's not like we've run into that situation, which I think is kind of crazy, because I think at this point Congress should have been ready to have voted and probably should have already had a vote on do we go to war or not, and then we just go with Congress's vote here. If they would have voted last week, we're going to war, then we're going to war, right? These are the people that we elected. If we disagree with it, we got to vote better next time. We got to vote at the lower levels and make sure that we're not choosing between a douche and a turd sandwich. You know what I mean? We got to, we can't just show up for the big one every 4 years. We got to vote in our local stuff, and we got to pay attention. We got to make sure as a society that we're not letting painting ourselves into that corner. Right. And so,
right. Well, and to piggyback off of that, I was pretty happy by seeing what Dan McKnight's take on this whole thing was, right? He was repeatedly quoting people and saying, like, no, if we go to war, if we're doing this, Congress better vote on it, right? This is his whole thing, his whole stick. And it got me thinking too, like, people were mad at Dave Smith, right? And that's one thing I don't think we touched on here very much about, but obviously he got attacked and smeared because he said immediately he apologized for voting for Trump, which, again, he made a public bet that he said he would do that if Trump got us to war with Iran. So I don't think it was as much of like I'm going to go out and apologize. More so it was like, I'm going to be a man of my word and say what I said I would tell you. And with that, though, people were asking, what's the justification for the impeachment? Well, the impeachment is just what you said. The justification would be the president unilaterally is trying to get us in a war. Well, I wouldn't say unilaterally because Israel. But Donald Trump is going to get us into a war with bypassing and circumventing Congress when they should have voted on it. Now, I'm not saying it's happened yet, but everything is speaking circumstantial evidence that we are like 99% involved, especially with intelligence.
Right.
So
but you know what?
Could be the grounds for it.
Right. But from my perspective, if we're going to give all the rest of the presidents in the past a pass, people that, in my opinion, were much worse presidents, I'm absolutely going to give Donald Trump the same pass. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. He is still my guy. And one thing to keep in mind, too, with electing Donald Trump over Kamala, we did get Maha. And a side note is I saw Tyson Foods I think it was Tyson Foods. It might have been another one. No, it wasn't Tyson. I'm not going to name a name. It wasn't Tyson. Decided they're going to take all of their food dyes out. They're removing the dyes. So it went for Maha, right? And then it kind of issued the challenge to the next. Oh, it was General Mills. Okay. I remember now.
That's like what, Kraft and Tyson and a bunch of the big ones, right?
Yeah, it was General Mills that was doing it. So yeah, And then they kind of issued the challenge to the next one on the post that I saw. It wasn't actually a challenge from, the people that were doing it, but win for Maha. Tulsi Gabbard has been solid. So, I mean, remember, keep that in mind too, when folks are talking about, I regret, because you mentioned the Dave Smith apologized for voting for Trump, which I actually tore him apart for that, which, I don't have very many opportunities to tear Dave Smith apart, but I kind of tore that one apart myself. I did on the last show.
Yeah.
Just completely disagreed with the premise and where it was coming from. And
yeah. Well, I agree with the fact
send
that
Ulbricht back to prison. There you go, TNT. Trump delivered for the libertarians. Was the only presidential candidate that ever in like history gave him time of day. And that was the first time Dave Smith was introduced to me, was whenever he was saying "fuck Trump" at that particular conference. You know what I mean? My first introduction to Dave Smith was like, this dude is talking junk on Trump. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, he was never big on Trump, right? I don't think he ever hid that though. At the same time, right? I think they was always vocally reluctant to be on Trump's side. I mean, he didn't even do it till last minute, even in 2025 or 2024, I should say. But I do agree with you that I think like of all the things going on right now, like impeaching Trump, I just like that's like a whole other mess, and it would really, what would it serve beyond like getting an emotional win? So I agree on that end.
And that implies a huge amount of trust in JD Vance as well.
Right. And that's part of it too for me, which is like, you impeach Trump, you get JD, and I think JD's worse, especially with his connections to Palantir and Peter Thiel. So it's kind of like a conundrum there where I don't think you need to really like concern yourself about it. But I want to highlight the fact of, I'm glad you pulled that up. This is the thing, like, this is what I don't understand, right? Like MAGA, like, can someone pull up a MAGA rally? Can TNT do it for me? A MAGA rally where people were shouting, at a Trump rally, no nukes for Iran, or were they screaming, no more wars, no new wars? Because I think it was no new wars, not
well, it's
no
both.
nukes for Iran.
Well, it's both.
I would encourage you, if you can pull up a video where people are chanting at a Trump rally, no nukes for Iran, I'll give you $100.
I mean, I don't think that ever happened, but it's both. I mean, you don't have to have one and not have the other. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
you can say no new wars, but you can also understand that there is a red line, and when the red line is crossed, you got to do something about it.
That's not what I'm sorry.
I mean, that's what being a man is. That's what towing the line is all about, bro. You got to have the line and you got to tow it. When they cross the line, there's consequences. That's the FAFO.
I would largely wager, and I would go to the Charlie Kirk
They gave them
poll.
60 days to negotiate on top of the 35 years that they've, the 65 years that they've had, whatever to negotiate already.
Well, the 60th thing is, I mean, I think that's just entirely like, it's just meaningless. Like you could give them 90 days, 120 days, 30 seconds. I think that's just meaningless. You're seriously arguing that you think MAGA equally holds no nukes for Iran as much as they wanted no new wars?
No, I didn't say it's equal. I said that there is a red line, that there is an understanding. You can have both. You can chant no new wars and also understand that if somebody crosses a line, there's going to be consequences. Now, the good thing is Donald Trump's history of wars is selected targets. It hasn't, it's been very, very clean, concise, got the job done. It looks like you might have frozen up there too. I'm not sure. Which is a terrible time because we're having a good conversation. Dang it. Welcome into the new folks in chat, by the way. I see some new faces. It's good to see some people. But yeah, it looks like we might have lost Atlas. Hopefully the stream is actually still up. Guys, let me know in chat if the stream is still up. I'm seeing that the signal is still fine and everything. Yeah, we aren't at war. I'm not going to say we are. I mean, it could change next week. There's a lot of speculation and projection. Stream's still up. Okay, thanks, Cool Vic. So yeah, Atlas, see if you can get back in. I don't know what happened. But yeah, darn, that was a good conversation that we're having there. Let's just move forward here. The Hodge twins also responded to the same post. Just basically said we're not falling for this bullshit anymore. Donnie said, being a man is being a warmonger on behalf of Israel. No, it's not being a warmonger on behalf of Israel, but Donald Trump has his line. His line he's stated for a long time, for 10 years, is that Iran can't have nuclear weapons. That's Donald Trump's red line. So they crossed his red line. He's the president of the United States. There's respect that has to come there. I mean, he's the president of, he's the most powerful man on planet Earth, according to the position. So, I mean, you can frame it as being a man as being a warmonger on behalf of Israel, but I don't think it's being anything on behalf of Israel. It's because he's got his lines. He's got his limitation. Ooh, UFC fighter champion Michael Bisping in the house. What up, bro? Tucker has lost his marbles. Yeah, man, this is a dividing line between a lot of folks that voted for Trump. That's for sure. I think he certainly got the better of Ted Cruz in this, and Ted Cruz kind of exposed some stuff. They were negotiating until Israel blew up the negotiator. Well, they gave them the 60 days. I mean, look, I don't want to sit here and like turn into this like defender of Ben Shapiro's favorite country, which I'm certainly not. I have America First TV as the name of my main channel. I absolutely think that the United States should not be spending $1 on the defensive or on the offensive actions of Israel. Yes, we do have an alliance that we are supposed to defend them. To what extent, I believe that also has its red line. You know what I'm saying? It's not like we're just going to continually defend you as you fight everybody in your region and try to maintain superiority. Disarming their enemies for their benefit. And I don't like this argument that the leaders of Israel or of Iran chant death to America. I don't really feel threatened in America by Iran. Do you? No, I don't. I don't want Donald Trump to send in the B-2s to help Israel here, but up to this point, it's just been Israel fighting them, right? I mean, that's the official narrative. I mean, we can try to read between the lines and assume and inject like our opinions, but like it's all speculation at this point. Looks like we have Atlas back.
Unsure how long I'm going to be able to stay on. It's storming really, really bad.
Okay.
Where I'm at. I'm trying to remember where we left off at. The sentiment of the no nukes for Iran and crossing a line, right? So this is the part like that I think people need to hone in on, which is like when you start with that, you start in the middle of the story, right? That's not the beginning of the story. The beginning of the story needs to go back to the early 60s and 50s when Israel set off this arms race by stealing nuclear technology from the US and other countries to build their arsenal. But nobody starts with that at the beginning of their story. It's always Iran trying to catch up to the only nuclear power in the entire region, right?
Right. Which, oh, dang, looks like we lost you again. Dang it. Yeah, looks like we just lost him. Maybe the storms will let up and he can come back and join us. That's a bummer. Let's see here. Donnie says, believe the official narrative. Never heard that on this channel. No, man. And I didn't even say that. I remember I'd led into that saying, are you afraid of Iran? And I hesitated to say the official narrative, but it is still a fact. It's a valid thing that they're not America's friends. And I'm not scared of them, but Iran's not our friends. I'd rather take a country that's our ally, at least calls themselves our ally, over Iran. That's for sure. But yeah, looks like we lost him for good. Hopefully he can come back later on. Maybe the storms will let up. But let's get back to this here. Oh yeah, the Hodge twins just said not falling for this BS anymore. Oh no, this is actually different. This is where they get back on that same topic. So this is a different segment.
Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one.
Yeah, but just seeing the conversation and feeling the tension like with chat, this is like a very important thing that probably needs to be hashed out, right? So, okay, it looks like we got Atlas trying to come back here. We'll give it one more try. Yeah,
This is
man.
ridiculous. This is probably
We're-
going to be so annoying.
That's okay. If you need to, like, next time you drop, if it's like storming real hard and you need to wait a little while or something to come back and try, that's fine too.
I think I might do it with my phone if it does it again and try to do it off of 5G or something.
Okay. Yeah, that'll probably work.
Yeah, clearly somebody doesn't want us talking about that subject. So
They sent a
least
storm over
me.
Atlas's house, so we can't have this conversation.
yeah, right. I knew they controlled the weather.
No, but like I said, this is an important conversation that needs to be hashed out.
Right.
And there's a lot of fake news, just bullshit in the mix here. So much levels of loyalty, and Ted Cruz right here is kind of the epitome of term limits a little bit. You know what I mean? to save the rest of my take. But here, let's finish this. This is a little bit longer version where they get back on that same topic. Yeah, Gary Mag is definitely on the line with this decision. I agree. There's trying times.
Right.
Because biblically,
But you know what? I think Trump is the guy that can maybe steer this ship. Not to have a bunch of faith in a politician, but I do have faith in Trump, the man, not necessarily a politician. You guys know he's the New York businessman. That's the guy that I trust more so than the politician. But anyways,
we're commanded to support Israel. But number two,
Hold on.
I'm not holding on.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel, and what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel. Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis. That's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
And so is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel.
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
They're the descendants
God's
of
referring
Abraham.
to in Genesis? Is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes,
it is. Okay.
And by the way, it's not run by Benjamin Netanyahu as a dictator. It's a democratic country that elected.
He's the prime minister,
right?
What?
But just like America is the country run by Donald Trump. No, actually, the American people elected Donald Trump. The same principle
This is silly. I'm talking about the political entity of modern Israel.
Yes, and that is
you believe
Israel.
That's what God was talking about in Genesis.
I do, but
that country's existed since when?
For thousands of years. Now, there was a time when it didn't exist, and then it was recreated just over 70 years ago.
I'm saying, I think most people understand that line in Genesis to refer to the Jewish people, God's chosen people.
That's not what it says.
Okay, Israel, but you don't even know where in the Bible it is. So I don't know.
I don't remember the scriptural citation. But okay,
it's like Genesis 16 or something like that. But yes, it's in the earlier part of the book. But the point is,
all right, Tucker, you keep interrupting me before I finish my sentence.
It's important to know what you're talking about. I don't know what so you're saying as a Christian, if I believe in Jesus, I have to support the modern state of Israel.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm explaining for me what my motivation is.
And just real quick, I did do a search. I'd use the old chat GPTs to where'd it go? To oh no, where did it go? I had all the Bible verses pulled up. Oh, there it is. Okay. Once again, it was one to the left of my furthest left where I thought I was starting. Anyways. But I was just curious. It's like, where in the Bible does it say that, the Christians, right? The God's true people that follow Jesus. Where does it say that we're supposed to support Israel in the manner that Ted Cruz says? And the closest one that I can come up with is Psalm 122, verse 6, where it says, "Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May they be secure who love you." Okay.
Right.
There's much more talk about the actual city of Jerusalem than there is about the nation of Israel. And it says that we are to pray, right? That doesn't mean send billions of dollars. That doesn't mean go die on the battlefield.
Right.
That doesn't mean bomb their enemies.
Well,
We're
this is
supposed
why
to pray for peace of Jerusalem.
And this is why the Schofield Bible is very important to this point, which is the Schofield Study Bible, because the biblical text does not have, like you said, right? You looked at on Grok, it doesn't say that anywhere. Like, what the heck? Where are they getting this from? Is because, when they get those study Bibles, right, where you have them bottom sections where it's like, the author's note, they explain things in a bit better context. Here's what they're really saying in this Bible verse, right? That's what the Schofield Bible did through all of the verses that Tucker's talking about in terms of Abraham. Those are the ones where he wrote in and then injected the kind of Zionism we see today, which is why it's so important to bring up the Schofield Bible in terms of the way that it transcribes and interprets what's being said there, because it is so staunchly different from literally the entire history of all Christianity and what the other, church fathers' takeaways were of it.
Excellent. So I'm just seeing some chat here. Chris says, no, we're not commanded to fight for Israel. Yeah, basically it says we're supposed to pray for Jerusalem, for peace in Jerusalem. That's it. There's one other part that I found interesting, which was in Revelation. I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. There was another part in Revelation. The one who conquers, I will make him a pillar in the temple. Wait, is that the right one? Oh, no, it's this one. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great high mountain that showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. So it's very specifically focused on the city of Jerusalem. And I think that speaks to what House mentions here that, chat kind of moved on me. Where'd your comment go, House? The New Jerusalem is the church. So, I think that's all. Oh, what's up, Jamie? Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, that was just some excellent extra stuff that I found was interesting that related to Jerusalem or Israel, mentioned in the Bible. Right? I found that it's more of the city of Jerusalem is the focus, not necessarily the nation. Never the nation of Israel. And as House mentioned, I think that the city or the city of Jerusalem is actually a reference to the church, which is the people, right? So,
right. Yep, that is all New Covenant, right? This is a portion of the New Covenant spoken about not only by Jesus himself, but also with Paul there as well. Although Paul, I think, is a bit more articulate, so people typically go to Paul's references there. But again, and the whole other layer here is the fact that largely any even halfway kind of discussion about this topic has been shoved into the farthest, most obscure corners of the internet. It has largely been at the behest of individuals like Nick, like Wilson, like Dyer, who have driven the Overton window on Christianity so hard. And you pair that with so many young men who are just disenfranchised in general, searching for a greater purpose, they just naturally fall into Christianity. And then when the likes of Joel Webbin and Stone Choir and many others, they begin to realize, like, wait a minute, this is so staunchly different from the, mainstream kind of commercialized Christianity. And they're like, well, what are these differences? Where are these at? And then next thing one thing after another, these people kind of fall down this rabbit hole. And they begin to discover the truth, and they realize that largely the last, 125 years of Christianity has been, subverted and co-opted by a very strong heretical premise. And if you were to push back on that, say goodbye to whatever, social media you had, because you weren't allowed to really kind of push back against it.
Right. So let's continue here. Got another couple of minutes.
But so I'm just trying to understand. You said God tells you to support the modern state of Israel in the Bible, in some place in the Bible that you heard about, but you don't know where it is. That's your theology?
You're going back, am I a sleazy feline again? I mean,
if you accuse me of anti-Semitism again, I will say that, but I don't think you will.
Try to be a little less condescending. I'm trying to have a conversation.
Condescending. You're throwing this stuff out, and it's my job to figure out what you're talking about. Okay, but I don't understand.
But you're not letting me.
Okay. I'm sorry. I want to be polite.
That is for me a personal motivation, but I also, what I was about to say, I don't believe my personal faith, not everyone who I represent is a Christian. It's not an argument for me to give that we should do this because of my faith. And so as an elected official, I don't give that as the reason we should support Israel. That is a personal motivation for me, but I don't think it is the reason we should. The reason that I am the leading defender of Israel is because Israel is our strongest ally in the Middle East, an incredibly troubled part of the world, and supporting Israel benefits America.
I was hoping you had some of.
So, I don't know if you caught that.
I'm sorry, I want to be polite.
That is for me a personal motivation, but I also, what I was about to say, I don't believe my personal faith, not everyone who I represent is a Christian. It's not an argument for me to give that we should do this because of my faith. And so as
Let's see. So yeah. Tucker
Which is
totally
odd.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's odd, right? Like I really don't even understand like that statement there. It's so weird, right? It's like,
Mhm.
I don't think people should listen to me just because of my faith, but the reason I'm doing this is because of my faith. It's like, so should people listen to you or not, right? Is there truth in what you're saying or not? Like, it's so weird. And again, the whole thing is obviously like, it feels like there's a specific thing he's trying to say. Tucker keeps trying to pull him out of it there as well too. But again, here we are, right? This is the whole where we're building up to the point where, again, I would like to know what criticism can you have of Israel that, I'm not going to be called an anti-Semite, right? What criticism can I have of Judaism where I'm not going to be called a bigot? It's impossible.
Well, somebody mentioned in chat, I put on the screen, I forget who mentioned it, but yeah, you can criticize Israel and not be talking about the Jews. It's so crazy. It's how the I get it that it's kind of intertwined because the governments are literally led by the religion. Same with Iran. It's basically the Muslims are running the country and the Jews are running Israel. But when criticizing the country, we're not necessarily talking about the religion at all. Or the people. Usually we're just talking about the leaders and things like that.
Right.
But let's see. What did I see? Oh yeah, Jay said, I love Israel. I don't agree with everything that they do. That doesn't make me an anti anything. I don't trust any human blindly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I
and
think I think that's a big part about the conservative side too, is that everybody just is guard up everywhere. That's why they have such a hard time, like even supporting conservatives. Like at the left, they're like, "Oh, look, Democrat influencer, follow, share, follow, share, follow, share." We got to help each other, but we're way more selective and nitpicky when it comes to our support, which is okay. It's fine.
Yeah, well, it was also the inevitable end of Big Ten conservatism. All these factions have different end goals, which implies like their solutions would be completely different from one another. They were really only largely in alignment just because they opposed, the progressive nature of everything. And that was one thing too, which was like, and I think you said it a little bit, and I don't think you're guilty of this, but you even had a tweet from Charlie Kirk that was telling people to like turn off their phones, right? Just trust in the plan. And like that language is so
dude,
close.
I reposted a bunch of stuff so that I could use it and show it, and not necessarily because I agreed with it, by the way.
No, you're good. I was just saying because I think you were said something halfway like that a little bit earlier, maybe before I got disconnected.
Oh, gotcha.
Which I think there is a difference between, like just like giving someone the benefit of the doubt versus like also throwing your hands up and going like, trust Trump will do it. We just got to have faith in Trump. It's like that is idolatry. I mean, like that is blatantly like putting blind faith in somebody with no evidence. I mean, that is the definition of faith. And I think that's ultimately really another part of it too, where there seems to be a strong, at least in my opinion, a very strong cult-like adherence to like, if Trump says it, no one's allowed to move away from the fray. And you can see that highlighted by people like DC Drano, Laura Loomer, and many other of these kind of anon accounts that were like, all right, I'm making a list of all the people who've counter-signaled Trump, who's with me. And it's like, that's cult behavior.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to excise people because they voice dissent. That is what a cult does.
Right. It's literally just trying to do the things. It's the same hypocritical type of stuff that we call out the Democrats for doing. and then you go and do it yourself. And it's like, wait a minute. No. We got to be principled over here if we're going to actually make a mark.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. So then they got onto what is AIPAC, which was interesting because what you saw right there was Ted Cruz kind of even started to get into it. But this is where my eyes kind of really lit up when they started talking about AIPAC and Ted Cruz talking about his personal motivations and things like that.
So I've never taken money.
And by the way, I wanted to ask folks, I see we got a lot of folks kind of cycling it in and out. The views are up. Make sure you guys hit that like button and share, subscribe, all that good, YouTube, Rumble stuff, please. And on X as well. Really helps us out. We're really trying to grow and reach new people. And we can only do it with your help. So appreciate it.
Exactly.
Appreciate it. Anyway, let's go.
So I've never taken money from the Israel lobby. Have you?
Taken money from the Israel.
From AIPAC.
So AIPAC raises a lot of money for me, but it's actually a misnomer because the people who raise money are individuals. Right. So it's not the PAC itself, but they're individual members who believe in the American-Israeli friendship and relationship.
Is AIPAC a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the AIPAC stands for the America-Israeli Political Action Committee.
What does it lobby for?
So, to be honest, not a whole lot effectively. Listen, I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate.
Right.
And I've worked every day to do that. AIPAC, a lot of
Right there. Right there. What the hell? Who? What? And Tucker repeats that back to him later on, and I don't know if it's within this next 2 minutes. I think it was actually, that's why I say that this whole interview is so worth watching, because Tucker brings back up like what you said earlier. And when he brings that up, Ted Cruz kind of like, oh, I got into it for the American people and blah, blah, blah. And he started kind of saying the shit that he should have said the first time. But
right.
You've already spoken you already said the true meaning of your heart, right? Now that you've had a chance to think about it, you're playing politician. So I just want to bounce this back and just let people hear that one more time.
Yeah.
As for the America-Israeli Political Action Committee.
What does it lobby for?
So, to be honest, not a whole lot effectively. Listen, I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate.
Right.
And
Jamie says Ted Cruz is a rhino in disguise. I came out of this interview and I think I said to my wife, he is was it a gay Democrat? Maybe it was I can't remember now. It was a something Democrat. And it just totally changed my mind. Like, I've gone back and forth on Ted Cruz a lot over the years. And lately he seems like generally he's a decent dude with a good head on his shoulders. He does these interviews on Crowder that, he seems like he's kind of a guy's guy and he understands the culture and stuff like that. But then I didn't recognize this Ted Cruz. And it revealed to me that, like Jamie says, he's a rhino in disguise, but it's more than that. It's like he's really a warmongering Democrat. And there's something else to add to it, but maybe I'll think of it. Definitely. Maybe I think I might have called him a Jew. I think that's what it was. I called him a Jewish Democrat. He's a Jewish Democrat.
I don't think he's a rhino. I think he's exactly what Republicans would want their guys to be. I think he's a GOP's dream. I think he is the, capital R Republican. I don't think he is, America first. But I think largely, he represents, he's very similar to the vast majority of Republicans in office. Like, these are the views and the beliefs that they would espouse. Even the ones he would quote unquote like a bit more than others. I think they're all going to be in this camp with Ted Cruz for the most part.
Right. This is kind of the dividing. You've seen it, but here, let's, we're going to continue here. Don't worry, TNT.
Worked every day to do that. AIPAC, a lot of times, AIPAC, I wish were much more effective. Like, There
But
are folks
hold on. But what do they
online
do?
who are in
I
the
thought they
fever
were-
swamp of
aren't-
terrified of AIPAC, and AIPAC.
I'm not terrified of AIPAC at all. You're the one who seems a little uncomfortable when I'm asking.
No,
this.
not uncomfortable at all.
I'm just asking what AIPAC does. My understanding, having known a lot of people
I
who
could
went
tell
to
you,
AIPAC,
I
is
deal
that
with
it
them all the time.
lobbies on behalf of the Israeli government.
Wrong.
Oh, okay.
No, it's
When
objectively
was the
wrong.
last time AIPAC took a position that deviated from Prime Minister Netanyahu?
All the time.
Name
And,
one.
okay. Let me go back and give a little history. If you want to do a deep dive on AIPAC,
I don't. I want to do a shallow dive that gets.
No, I'm not gonna do a simple-
I want to get to the core question. AIPAC is lobbying for a foreign government, and I
False.
don't. It's not.
No.
It's lobbying for the United States.
it is lobbying for a strong U.S.-Israeli relationship.
Okay,
And
so it's not has nothing to do with the foreign government.
it wants America and Israel to be closely allied.
Okay, but it's lobbying on behalf of the interests of another country.
So that's not true at all. And if
it's
you
not true.
no, and
How much contact do you think AIPAC leaders have with the government of Israel?
no idea. I
Many,
imagine
nothing?
some. I think
He makes this definitive statement, and then he has no idea how much contact, which would be the pivotal thing to know, right? Like, does AIPAC talk to Israel leadership? Are they getting any kind of influence? Are they having meetings like Tim Pool with Benjamin Netanyahu? I would assume yes, right? I mean, let's not fool ourselves. If they're going to have, try to spread pro-Israel propaganda with the U.S. influencers meetings, they're definitely going to have meetings with the machine that is AIPAC within the United States. Let's just be real. I mean, that's just common sense, right? I mean, that's not me being outlandish in assuming that, is it?
No, I think it's outlandish. Again, I like it earlier, right? When he makes the point of, it seems, like you don't have a strong, comprehensive, idea of like what I'm like trying to ask you about. And the same thing visible here with this, where it's like, you can tell me a whole lot about how they're not effective, but then like you have a non-definitive answer over like how much they're involved between the different states, between the Israeli government and American government.
Yeah.
Again, I think the whole thing just reeks of, he's clearly unwilling to give a full-fledged answer.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's another disconnect that they have in this interview where Ted Cruz just doesn't seem to understand what Tucker's saying as it relates to, like I said, I don't want to derail from this part of it, but you guys got to watch the whole thing. But we're just breaking down these segments because these are some of the highlights.
Right.
But here, I'm going to finish off the rest of this.
the government of Israel is often frustrated with AIPAC
Do you
because
think there's
AIPAC's
any
not nearly strong enough.
Do you think there's any coordination between the government of Israel and AIPAC?
Do they talk? Sure. If you're lobbying for more U.S.-Mexico trade, would you talk to people in the U.S. and Mexico and the government? Sure. Like if
So I'm not mad about that. There are a million countries that lobby Washington. I like a lot of those countries, including
okay,
Israel.
but AIPAC are Americans. They're
hold
not
on,
Israelis.
hold on. There are tons of Americans who lobby on behalf of foreign governments. I know them. I'm related to some of them. I know how it works. I'm from here. So my question is not, is it outrageous that foreign governments lobby the United States? They all do, okay, including Israel. My only question is, why don't we admit that is what's happening? You're denying it, but it's true.
Yeah,
And
but
why
because
aren't
what
they?
you're saying is false.
Why aren't they registered
What
as
you're
a foreign lobby?
Because they're not.
So, I mean, he's out here just carrying water for AIPAC. And Jamie says, where to go? He won't give an answer. He's afraid of what will happen to him if he truly answers. And yeah, he even kind of admitted they're one of his biggest funders. They give him a lot of money. They haven't always since the beginning, but they do now. And so we find ourselves in this situation. So that's what we're talking about. But
he's
yeah,
received about like $2 million, I believe, from AIPAC by themselves.
yeah, that's a lot of money. And, you know, when it comes to these high level dudes, we learned from Matt Gaetz a while back on Tim Pool's show that they're constantly fundraising. So the easier it is for you to fundraise, the easier your life is. And when you got AIPAC in your pocket funding you, your life is easier. Just kind of how the hierarchy and system of it goes. Yeah, Tucker had him on the ropes. Guy can't get his thoughts together. Lion's Head, yeah. Let's see, we've got some.
Well, I think the thing there that's really the big conundrum, right, is he's saying that this pack is there, like their whole goal is to bolster U.S.-Israeli relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But on the same hand then says, no, it's not for the interests of a foreign government. It's like that that there's like that is nonsensical, right? It's like, even
Yeah.
if you want to argue is also in America's interest, fine, but you're still arguing for the mutual interests of both countries, which in turn means you're still arguing for the benefit of another country's interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like he refuses to like make this statement. And again, many people are irritated that APEC doesn't have to register under FARA, right, which is the Foreign Agencies Registration Act,
Yeah, I think so.
which would mean that then they would have to open up their kind of like checkbooks and accounting, and they'd have to be transparent with the U.S. government, so we would have
Mhm.
a stronger idea of what's going on, in terms of this lobbying group.
Right, and then to find out how
Now,
much money is going from the pro-Israeli community into American politics, and they don't want that number to be tallied. I don't think.
right. Well, and House points out here too with open secrets, but you have major accounts like Trek APAC who do all these graphics. You probably see them on X all the time now, because there's a lot of the belief there's a major lack of oversight over this, which is why you do see all of these kind of different entities, like Trek APAC and Open Secrets, who do the most to try to open up the eyes of what they can provide receipts for in terms of where the money's going and who's flowing to. And generally largely in tune with like primary races where you see one candidate gets a mass infusion of cash, generally from APAC, and largely on the basis of the opposing candidate is not pro-Israel enough. And then, Thomas Massey talked about this at length as well, too, with Tucker Carlson as being like one of the only guys who doesn't have an APAC handler,
Mhm.
and, in his words.
Mhm. Yeah, Thomas Massey doesn't. Got a couple comments I want to highlight here. Shep says, "Why is it so hard to find politicians who are actually America first? Won't be bought by foreign entities." Well, term limits would have a big thing on that. Ted Cruz even admitted they weren't giving him money at first, but once they realized that he was good at his job, he wasn't going away anytime soon. He became bought, right? He tried to act like he went back to the very beginning when he started, before they started giving him money. He was in it to be the most pro-Israel congressman in the room, or whatever the hell it was he said, which was stupid. So he's trying to that's just him trying to cope and act like he didn't change once they started giving him money, right? Chris mentions here that, again, I believe that there should be 0 dual citizenships. And,
Yeah.
I thought of that earlier when I was listening to this too, Chris. I believe Ted Cruz's dad and Ted Cruz himself might be no, I think it's Cuban, which they have like the embargo where you can go back and forth and you have like the United States citizenship, right? I think that's how that goes. If you can get
Right.
here, then you're. So I mean, it's kind of mixed for him as far as dual citizenship, but I get it. But it may still cross my mind. Let's see here. Yeah, Ted Cruz has accepted $1,899,000 in the last year. This was a post from Anomaly, and he makes this point, which is kind of it's a weird point, but he does it just to show you numbers for an idea. He knows that they don't actually relate, but he mentions if you make $100,000 a year, you need to work for 19 years untaxed to make what Ted Cruz has pulled in from just one lobbying group. Okay, not 1 year, one lobbying group. And then he followed up and just said, "I obviously know this isn't his income; it's part of his campaign funding, but I'm just putting it into perspective for Americans," which, I think was a good gives you a good visual representation of it right there. And then,
Yeah, which he even himself said, right, that they didn't even support him in the beginning. It was actually rather recently that he began to get a lot of the backing from APAC.
and so we got this post here. "When I first ran for Senate, my main goal was to defend the interests of Israel." And he goes, "And I'm the one obsessed with Israel," because again, it comes back in this conversation, and Ted Cruz starts calling Tucker some names, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, I felt like that was probably the most like noticeable, moment from the debate, which is played out here, right, with our very own like TNT, right, who I believe is way off his rocker. You have this moment where the guy goes, "Israel, Israel, Israel. I love Israel. I would choke on Israel's nuts, balls, and I'd lick all around it." And they're like, "Why?" And you're like, "Why wouldn't I? You anti-Semite, you bigot, you hate Jews." It's like, dude, that was a dynamic of that conversation, and we'll get to it after we get this Mossad one. But it is the point, right? Which is, you see hundreds and hundreds of individuals speaking to this. You see all of the money going into it, and the moment somebody goes, "So why are we doing this?" people immediately start raging out and they spurg out, and it's like that's what makes more people. It's like the Streisand effect, right? It's like, so why are people freaking out about this? More people go and look at it, and that's kind of where we are right now. So the more that this keeps happening, the more anti-Semites will be born, right? More people begin to notice, and they go, "This is a little odd. Why is this happening?"
Interesting. Sorry, I was reading chat there. Just putting this on here for. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's very divisive. People are really taking hard stances on this, and honestly, there's a fatigue going around too of blaming Israel for everything. People are kind of tired of it, even if they understand that there's an underlying truth to it or whatever. Like in the background, probably some dollars going to influence a politician that should have been, term limited out decades ago. But at the same time, people are just like, really, are we just going to go Israel bad again, once again, over and over again?
Well,
I'm kind of there,
I would give credence
there
to
myself, honestly, just from everything of it. I'm just tired of talking about other countries.
I would give credence to that argument if it wasn't so overtly obvious to anyone who paid attention to politics the last 20 years that you weren't allowed to talk about Israel. So the whole like, I don't want to hear about it is like, dude, really? Like the reason why Ryan Dawson doesn't exist on YouTube, the reason why Nick Fuentes doesn't exist on YouTube.
Yeah, but
down the
you
line,
can find the people.
Web is blacklisted, right? And
Yeah,
then
you
even
can find the
BT
people
itself,
though.
right?
That's the thing. And so when you find the people, you hear it all the time, and then it's just like, all right. Or every time you see Nick Fuentes, it's the same thing, or whatever, and it's just like, I don't watch him all the time, but whenever he does go viral on something, it's like, all right, well, one trick pony. I don't know. Like I say, it kind of just I'm over it. There's got to be another solution other than blame Israel bad for everything.
Do you have the same fatigue with Alex Jones and globalists?
Not really.
Why?
But what's that? A dry mouth. From fasting, dude. I'm freaking getting cotton mouth bad. But I mean, they're kind of the same, right?
I don't think they're treated the same at all. I think
no, I mean the entities themselves are kind of the same. I'm saying you have a point. I'm saying you have a point. They're kind of the same. They're kind of the same. Like,
yeah,
but it's understood. It's just like, all right, are we really gonna always go here? We're never gonna look at China. I mean, we just saw like today or just a couple of days ago, FBI admitted that China had something to do with the 2020 ballots.
Right.
With you know what I mean? So, I mean, like, I'm with Trump when he first said that China's our main enemy. You know what I mean? I'd like to get back to that focus rather than talking about the Middle East and everything like that. But I don't know. I just,
well, and that's,
everything can really honestly be pointed to evil. We're talking about globalists, or we can go up the next level to just evil and put it all under the same umbrella.
Well, that's what I'm saying, which is like, again, like when have I ever said not to worry about China? I've never said that. But that's like this kind of, that's attached to what you're saying, which is like, all they want to talk about is this. It's like, no, they want to talk about Black culture. They want to talk about the issues with women. This is the thing where it's like, you talk about how all the stuff you see of Nick, and it's like, yeah, largely because it's clipped by people who hate him. And so when you see
whatever goes viral, like I just don't got time to listen to everybody all day. You know what I mean? I got to pick and choose, between researching my own stuff and whatever. I just, I try to watch as many debates so I get both sides of an argument at the same time. And
right. And the thing is, I don't even agree with Nick on everything either, right? Like, I think he's got, some, I would consider weak views on marriage, but I do generally agree with him on women largely. But at the same time, like, there's no fatigue over, over the globalists or like, people say neocons and all this. It's only when you begin to like really look into like who they are, right? And that's when people begin to have an issue. And that's what I like. I never understood
I believe
that.
it's funny. We give so much power to the nation of Israel, which is like the size of New Jersey, right?
Right.
But they are powerful. They're very forthcoming with their spy tactics. They're deeply embedded in, I would argue, probably every non-communist government around the world, and maybe even some of them.
Right.
It might be hard for the locals in Israel to infiltrate the CCP, given the cultural look is different, but
Right.
You know what I mean? But
yeah.
money speaks to those people that do look, you know what I'm saying? So
right.
Influence and whatever, buying information and stuff like that. But I just have a hard time saying that this country is so powerful. They do have a broad reach. I don't know. I mean, it's a weird scenario.
Yeah. And I think, again, at the same time, you can recognize there's strong influences there, but you don't have to go so far to say like, right, like I made a joke, right, like about the weather, but like I don't sit here and think like they're out here doing things like that. Like I think that's insane. But again, I largely mention, Israel, most people immediately return back with like, wow, you hate all Jews. And it's like, I'm not the one convoluting that. Like you are. It's like with the person like that gets angry, goes at it, and they like, that's kind of like their defense with it too. But that's where, what we were on earlier, which is like all of this attention on Iran can't have a nuke, right? But like, can someone give me an argument why, for one, why nobody talks about the caliphate back in 2003 promulgating a fatwa about the Islamic stance to never pursue a nuclear weapon? No one talks about that, right? But we're going to take them at their word when they chant death to America. So we were never going to treat them with good faith. We'll take them at their word when they say rude things, but when they say things that, they're going to have a civilized society and not pursue these things, well, they must be lying. That was my whole point with it, was never in good faith. No one was ever treating Iran in good faith, because we'll point to death to America, but we're also going to omit everything the mullah, right, has said since 2003. And then you go to Osama bin Laden, right? We go to like the fact that his letter went viral on TikTok because the majority of people didn't know the reason that he was going after America and attacking the US was largely because of our support for Israel, but also because I think it was in 1982, which was when we went in and attacked Lebanon. But no one talks about the fact that it was like we did things that spurned their reaction. It's not like we're just sitting here, oh my gosh, this terrorist came out of nowhere. It's like, no, like we did actions that spurned their reaction. And we always start in the middle of the story. And that's why I think you do a massive disservice to history, as well as just like the general large picture of what's really going on. Because most people want to zoom in like this, but reality is like you got to pull yourself back and really understand like all the events that have led to this too.
Yeah. But what was I going to say? Dang it, I was waiting until you were done, so I had a point, and then I started glazing over chat. Totally lost it. It's okay. Let's just go ahead. Let's play this next clip here. Tucker Carlson asked Ted Cruz if he thinks it's acceptable that Israel aggressively spies on the United States. And this was just seeming to be more revealing of Ted Cruz.
Does Mossad share all of its intelligence with us?
Oh, probably not, but they share a lot. We don't share all of our intelligence with them, but we share a lot. It's a close alliance.
Do they spy domestically in the United States?
Oh, they probably do, and we do as well. And friends and allies spy on each other. And I assume all of our allies spy on us.
And that's okay with you?
You know what? One of the things about being a conservative is that you're not naive and utopian. You don't think humans are all. Part of the reason socialism doesn't work is the mantra from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs doesn't work. As a conservative, I assume people act in their rational self-interest.
So it's conservative to pay people to spy on you?
It's conservative to recognize that human beings act in their own self-interest, and every one of our friends spies on us. And I'm not.
Do you like it? That's my question. I'm not asking whether they have motive to do it. Of course they do. I understand that. And
by the way,
I'm not mad at them. But you're an American lawmaker, so I just want to know. Hold on. I want to know your attitude. You said that your guiding principle, in fact, the only principle, the only criterion,
I said guiding, the overwhelming. I wouldn't say only.
is it in America's interest? Is it in America's interest for Israel to spy on us, including on the president?
It is in America's interest to be closely
No. The answer is no. What the fuck is he talking about?
Right.
allied with Israel because we get huge benefits for it. And you want to see the clearest.
So you're saying let them spy because we get huge benefits from Israel, but yet can't name one. What are
Right.
these benefits that they speak of? I need to know this.
My
I just want
I think the funniest thing with that too, because people have been saying that as well, and you see all these groks like
There you go. See it right there. With you get no benefits. Thank you. I see it in chat.
yeah, exactly. People were like, Grok, when was the last time an armed Israeli stood side by side with an American in any given armed conflict? And the answer, never.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, closest ally right there, man. You know, it's like
Mhm.
we have more instances of Frenchmen fighting alongside us in civil and in armed conflicts than we do Israel, and we barely give any money to France. It's wild.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's, I mean, we sit here and constantly fund their defense with missiles, expensive shit. You know what I mean? But they haven't contributed to our border wall, our defenses, right? I mean, send over some dudes and start building. I mean, at least you could have that, right? I mean, no, we don't
Yeah.
got that.
Right. And I think, and I do get at a practical level, like understanding that spying is, status quo. Like I do get that from Ted, right? Where I think maybe Tucker gets it a little bit too, which is, largely that every country is always going to try to serve themselves in their own best interest, even
They should.
and up to and including, spying on even your allies.
They should.
so
That
like-
should be the expectation from every world leader going into every negotiation is that this person that I'm talking to is out for the very best for their country.
Yeah. And I think where me and you both disagree, which is like you can understand and acknowledge that, but it doesn't mean you have to put up with it. It's like you can put things in place that make it not so like it happens, right? Like having that kind of attitude is like kind of wild, right? Because you think you'd be, his answer been like, yes, and I really wish, they would stop doing it, but he wasn't. It was like, well, they spy on us, and we do too. Like, it's like, that's not a good answer. Not a very satisfactory one at that.
Right. So we'll let him finish off this last 30 seconds here.
to stop on the spying for a second. That it takes place, as you know, and including on the president of the United States and several precedents. And I just want to know if that's okay and why is it okay? Wouldn't an American lawmaker say to a client state, you're not allowed to spy on us? I'm sorry. I know why you want to. I'm not mad at you, but you're not allowed to.
Sure.
And I don't care for it. I don't want to be spied on by you. It's kind of weird not to say that, but you don't seem able to say that.
Mentions it a couple times. You don't seem able to say that. That's odd to me.
Right.
Maybe
Right.
could have done without saying that. I get it, you're pushing buttons, but it's true. I mean, we're all thinking it. That's for sure.
And I mean, I do agree with somebody said earlier. I don't think Tucker went into this to have a full 100%. I really want to hear what you have to say. I also don't think he went in with gotchas, but I do think he went in with a lot of those, right? Where I would argue this whole thing was rhetorical, right? I don't think Tucker was trying to elicit answers from Ted Cruz, maybe on a couple of things, but largely everything he was asking Ted Cruz was to make a point about what Ted Cruz's response was going to be, almost as if it was very predictable and that Tucker knew it, was going to guess it, which is why it seems like he's getting all these gotcha moments in there too.
Right. I think a lot of it was
going up on that. But my bad. Go ahead.
no. I'm sorry. You said that last part. What did you say?
I was going to say it's just pretty easy to pick up with Tucker, right? 'Cause
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like so sarcastic. His tonation is so overt. You can just hear it when he makes these statements. It's hard. It's too hard to deny.
Well, he did the classic Tucker laugh at one point, and Ted Cruz was like, "Well, you can do your little Tucker laugh and try to get likes or whatever." It was really funny. You could tell he was under his skin, and Tucker's like, "You're right. I do have a problem doing that." He admitted that a couple times. It was really funny. So it seems like to me that Tucker was really being genuine, and Ted Cruz doesn't really seem like the type of guy that Tucker Carlson would be like, I can't wait to interview Ted Cruz. I'm going to get him with all these gotcha questions. Because like I said, Ted Cruz for a while, he comes off as like this guy's guy. I figured they'd probably talk about like fishing at some point. I know Tucker's a big fisherman, something, you know what I mean? But no, it went this way. And I think it was because Ted Cruz said things that were very curious. He was forthcoming with these curious notions. Yeah. And it sparked Tucker's natural curiosity into just investigating what you just said. And then hold him accountable to what he just said later on in the conversation as they move on to other topics. Like I said, that was a great conversation. We got one more segment here, it looks like, from this. And then I want to talk about the Doomsday plane before we get too close to the end. What time is it? I haven't even looked at the clock. 8:30. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. But, what is... Go ahead.
Well, I mean, like on that point though, too, right? The majority of what Ted Cruz is saying begs the question, right? It's like with each response he gives, it's like it brings about 10 more questions, which is
100%.
It's like we're and and I think you can kind of sense a little bit of that frustration with Tucker, which is like, he's like, well, we can do a deep dive, and Tucker's like, I want a shallow dive. Why don't you just answer my damn question, right? He's like, you're doing this weird dance. We're really not getting to the core of the issue, which I think is probably why you do get Tucker maybe being a bit more arrogant and coming off, what's the right word? Just confrontational, if you will.
Yeah, squirrely. I don't know.
Squirrely, that's a good one.
Yeah. But yeah, like as this conversation goes on, my natural progression, I think, might have been what Tucker was experiencing, in that this dude's full of shit. This dude is not who I thought he was. Like I said, I came off the interview, I told my wife that he was a Democrat Jew. That Ted Cruz is a Jewish Democrat. Just like, I don't know what else to say or think about it. It just seems like he was very heels deep.
My father even sent that to me last night, like at 10 or 11 p.m. before I went to bed. Sent me this clip, or the first clip that we watched, and he was like, man, this is so disappointing. And I was like, yeah, you're telling me. I think the majority, people just watching everything play out right now is just like, man, right? I think a lot of people are just generally just disappointed.
One thing's for sure is they like to keep us moving forward with the narratives. Like we were talking about tariffs 3 weeks ago. I mean, I can't even remember what. We had the No Kings protest this week. We had the ICE raid protest the week before. I feel like those were cover for the thing that was going on right before that too. Can't even remember. Then we had the Elon Trump battle. I don't know. It's just crazy. But here's this last section. Tucker explodes after Cruz implies anti-Semitic motive behind the Israel questions. And so this was pretty good.
The classic.
Do you?
Yeah. The go-to.
Think that it's just interesting because what you're now describing in a very defensive way, I will say, is foreign influence over our politics.
No.
And you began, and it's so transparently obvious to everybody. I don't know why you would be embarrassed of it. You've said that you are sincerely for Israel. I believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to be sincere.
By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing. The obsession with Israel. When we're talking about foreign countries,
it's hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question, what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, I'm an anti-Semite now. Senator,
you're asking the questions, Tucker. You're asking, why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
that's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that. And I have...
That is exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself and tell you what I am saying.
Good.
On behalf not simply of myself, but of my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions, which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy feline way implying it, or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with the foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews.
You said, I'm asking.
And by the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy feline. So let me be clear.
It's easy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer it. Give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
I am in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are on the brink of war with Iran. And so these are valid questions.
But you're not asking about Iran or
if
the
I can
Ayatollah.
finish, you asked me why I'm obsessed with Israel.
Yep.
3 minutes after telling me that when you first ran for Congress, you elucidated one of your main goals, which is to defend Israel.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period.
Okay.
Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from. So that's my position. That does not make me an anti-Semite. And shame on you for suggesting otherwise. And I mean that. And that's low, and you know it's low. So why don't you just answer my questions
I'll
in a
answer any
straightforward,
question you'd
rational
like.
way? You certainly have the IQ to do it. So-
Shame on you is cute, by the way, Tucker.
It is. It's not cute. I'm offended. I'm obsessed with the Jews. You just told me.
You
that
just called me a
ran-
sleazy feline.
It is sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite for asking questions about how my government
Do you
is
want to
run.
count how many questions you asked about? What about the Jews? What about Israel? What about
I
AIPAC?
never asked about the Jews. I have. This has nothing to do with the Jews, whatever that means. This has to do with a foreign government. And once again, shame on you for conflating the two.
Right.
Yeah.
Well said. Once again, shame on you for complaining the two. Got him double up there. That was great.
Yeah, right.
And again, I'll bring this on the screen here, just because it was a funny one.
Yeah.
When I sat and ran my first Senate, when I sat, there's not sat in there. God, I can't read. When I first ran for Senate, my main goal was to defend the interests of Israel. And I'm the one that's obsessed with Israel. Yeah, exactly. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, and just think about it too, right? Like, can you imagine, running for office and I don't know, like Venezuela? And when you go up and they talk about why did you want to run? You're like, well, I really wanted to set out and I was really concerned about the state of America.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, what?
I want to be the strongest advocate for America.
Right.
In
And
this
you're like,
whole Congress.
right. They're like, what's going on? And then you think about it too, where it's like, well, if the reality is it's like all Christian nations are supposed to have this relationship, then why aren't all the other Christian nations having this relationship? Right? It's just the US.
Yep.
And it's just this classic.
It's only the US
right?
that tolerates this stuff, that's for sure. Shep asks us, y'all know about the Samson project? Alice does. Alice knows more about it than I do. If you want to, go into it a little bit, just briefly. Yeah, Samson option. I think that's what it's called there. Yeah.
Yeah, Fosimo is correct in that. Yeah, it's the Samson option. It is named after that, off of the biblical figure Samson. If you remember the story in the Bible, Samson essentially is given one last chance to use his strength, I believe, after his hair was cut. And what he does is he was tied to two pillars, which is holding up, I believe, a tabernacle or a temple. I'm trying to remember which one. And with that one last burst of strength God granted him, he yanks both the pillars and takes all the people down with him who had set him up to cut his hair and take away his strength. And it's named that as an all-out response option for if Israel ever perceives or foresees that their entire state is threatened. It is called the Samson option. They basically have a dead switch where they hit a nuclear button and they spam nukes out to, I think it's over like 36 different cities and over like 36 different countries. It's basically their way of providing mutually assured destruction for their mass amount of region, which I think only certain portions of like Australia and like Alaska are like not afflicted by how far they can reach with their nuclear arsenal. Because Israel does possess, I believe, the estimate, because again, they are not a signatory in the NPT. The estimate is that they have about 200, I think about 200 nuclear warheads, give or take. I think the number is like, depends on who you talk to. But yeah, that's the fear, right? And I think there was even leaks. I don't think they're verified at all. But people said they had leaks earlier this week amidst all this chaos with Iran, that there was like a, what's the word? They had the cities of the Samson option. So people were leaking this document that said, hey, there's all of these like cities. And I think people were pointing out that there were American cities listed on the Samson option, which, Israel can easily reach, I think, the East Coast of us. But it's been a minute since I've seen the nuclear map.
Right. Atlas, Fosimo says, Atlas, do you know about Project Esther? I figured you would go ahead and print that video you just made.
Yeah, no, I actually, Fosimo, I made a mini documentary about Project Esther. You can find that on my individual channel. It's just titled Project Esther, in brackets, short documentary.
Yeah, and the
Project
link to Atlas's channel is down in the description. But he just made that video a couple days ago.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. And yeah, thank you. I don't know if you'd seen it already, or if it was like a push out there.
Yeah, yeah. Either
Or a
way,
promo.
appreciate it, Fozzie.
Yeah, right. I do appreciate that. But and just for anyone that doesn't want to watch the video, Project Esther was a formulation from the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative think tank. And they made a direct response, or they formulated it on the anniversary of October 7th. So in 2024, October 7th, as a broad kind of blueprint of all of the things and desired effects that they would like to see in terms of eliminating anti-Semitism, and threatening the HSN, which they argue is the Hamas support network, which is proliferating across America because they want to make sure that they can eliminate any kind of negative pressure against the U.S.-Israel relationship, with a few other things there too. So there's a lot that goes into Project Esther. The documentary do it better than I can explain it here. But it's all encompassing, and it's largely a blueprint for a public-private partnership to essentially censor and enforce, legislation that would be pro-Israel here in America nationally.
Thank you. Nice.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me make sure I'm not closing out my main one. All right. Okay, so we played that.
Yeah.
I'm going to skip over this last one with Alex Jones because.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't want to watch the video. Only thing I wanted to highlight with that was Alex Jones calls it treason. So he's calling Ted Cruz out for treason. If you read the very front end of that, the very first word.
So it says treason. Senator Ted Cruz defends Israel's Mossad spying on the U.S. in heated Tucker Carlson interview. And there's another aspect to this that we didn't get into, where it comes down to Ted Cruz says that Iran tried to kill Donald Trump twice, very definitively. And Tucker's like, well, then why don't we declare war against Iran and take care of it? Threatening the United States president is top-notch threat level 1. Like, just say that. And he didn't say this part, but I'm saying, like, just say that and then go take care of it. Like, people will get behind you if you're like, we're not doing it for Israel. We're doing it because they've tried to kill our fucking president. And then it's like, yeah, go get them. It's a total different narrative you're spinning, but I don't know. I guess they just don't want to do it like that. And Ted Cruz like resist, which is funny because like I think they just have a disconnect that Ted Cruz doesn't even understand what Tucker is saying when it comes to it. But having a principled stance and stand up against this, but he says treason. Senator Ted Cruz defends Israel's Mossad spying on the U.S. in heated Tucker Carlson interview. Plus, Cruz snaps on Carlson, quizzing him about Iran. Quote, you don't know the population of the country you seek to topple? Then he went on and said that the Texas senator goes on to confirm we are already at war with Iran. Quote, we are carrying out military strikes today. Israel is leading them, but we are supporting them. And that was only after he clarified it on the second time around. So Tucker gave him opportunities to clarify because what he was saying on the first time, like you said, begged the follow-up question. Didn't turn into this gotcha. It turned into like, I have a bunch to say. My mind's going I'm thinking a million words per second in response to what you just said. Shut up so I can ask you the next question.
Right. And and I think the crazy thing with this too, is we are now still once again in a position of where is the evidence of the nuclear weapon? Where is it? Right?
Yeah.
Where is the weapon? And and I made the point on my stream last night too with the IAEA. I even showed a bunch of different international outlets arguing that they think the IAEA is biased in general. They think the whole thing isn't even acting as a neutral apparatus to monitor Iranian enrichment, and they think that they're getting Israeli intelligence that's pushing them to be biased. At least that's what BRICS nations is reporting. And even with the uranium enrichment, it's not been. We don't even have we don't even have a United States report on it. We're taking all of our information from the analysis findings from the IAEA. And again, that goes back to why people were pulling out the Tulsi Gabbard clip of late March, where she was like, we do reaffirm the IC, the intelligence community does reaffirm that we do not believe they've resumed their nuclear weapons program from 2003. And so if the only thing that's changed is that they were beginning to develop more enriched uranium, right? We take that report for its word, take it as truth, which would be that they were getting to 60% enriched uranium, which is well past their limit of 3.75%. And you only need 90% to develop nuclear grade weapons. But we have the news from Israel that they have basically entirely degraded the nuclear facility in the country, meaning they can't enrich the uranium anymore. What are we striking them for?
Right. I guess the final blow to I really don't know. I mean,
Right. Which
Chris
makes me
did
think
send
it
me
was
the
all
video
about
of
regime
that.
change.
Yeah, that's why it's confirmed. It's converted from that to regime change, which is the new narrative,
Right.
essentially. So yeah, they're gonna try to terraform it or whatever. I don't know how you do it, but
Yeah.
morph it from they can't have nukes to regime change. And look, Trump really just can't get with this if he's really I don't know. The speculation is we're already dropping bombs. I don't know if we really are. If we got to go drop 1 or 2 bombs to finish off the job, maybe fuck it. I don't know. Tix Bomber is our expert bomber in here, so maybe I'll just refer to him on what we should or shouldn't do. But
Yeah. I mean, Trump
I don't know,
greenlit a
right?
strike.
I don't know. Like, if we can just drop a couple bombs and just be done with it and not drag this into this forever war and wrap it up, do we? I'm asking the question because I literally don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
definitely boots on ground is not an option.
Yeah.
But Trump's MO is, strikes. Whether it's launching whatever we did at Soleimani or whatever his name was, or Baghdadi, or dropping it out of a plane or whatever here in this
Right.
situation. You know what I mean? So I don't know. One thing that I'm definitely hardline is no boots on the ground. I think everybody agrees with that.
Yeah. No, and that's right. For me,
And right
it's
now,
like,
it's not costing us anything what Israel's doing. This war too. It's not costing us anything. So they are taking down a country that we're not really, that doesn't really like us publicly. I don't know. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, financially definitely are, right? Because we do know that the Nimitz, right, that was set to be decommissioned 11 months from a week ago,
oh yeah,
has made its way over to Israel.
2026. Yeah.
And then there were 5 more Navy vessels that departed out of Bahrain. And then you do have all this, the Diego Garcia B-2 bombers and fueling and refuelers. And then it was it's like the 35 now, 35 total large tank refuelers that have made it over to the Middle East. So we've at least spent money to mobilize the guys over there too. And the thing is like the estimates are that
Sorry,
there's
House made me laugh. He just threatened to drop Chris Christie on Iran. I'm
funny.
sorry, dude. That made me bust up. I couldn't help it.
That is funny. And that's still the best part about Trump is making those clips there. But before we went live, right, they already had kind of Trump has, what was the wording? He has authorized a strike against Iran, but has not greenlit it yet. And so even if, right, we don't send troops from the state right now over boots on the ground wise, still doesn't, there's still the fact that there's 40 to 50,000 guys in the Middle East who are American soldiers who will be well within the range of Iran to strike. So it's like, it's not like the boots on the ground thing immediately is like the moment we strike them, we have boots on the ground because it's already guys positioned there who are going to be in the range of being targeted. And Iran's already issued threats that if the US does do it, they will retaliate against us. So I think it's like that if we strike, that means you get both in one. You get a US strike and boots on the ground automatically at the same time because they're already there.
Maybe. Yeah. I know Iran. I mean, Iran is huge. So boots on the ground is going to mean years of undertaking. You know what I mean? So hopefully we can drop them from, bombs, send in the long range missiles, and not have anybody anywhere near it besides the button pushers on the ships or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just crazy because all the news coming out of there is also controlled. So, and then you have the front with Hamas on the other side of their country. Basically, they're fighting off to the east, and they're fighting right next to them to the west.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Never ending. I know a lot of folks have the stance too that Israel shouldn't be allowed to have a nuke, but you're not taking that genie back in the bottle or whatever, like you say. You're not putting that genie back in the bottle.
I mean,
Um,
we can't even because they're not even a signatory to the NPT. So
Right.
there's no body that oversees that. I mean, we would have to literally like start a war to get it out of their hands.
Yeah, and there's just, I mean, you could probably save it on a thumb drive and put it up somebody's butt and bury them and you dig it up 10 years later and still have it, you know what I mean, or whatever. So
Yeah.
like you're never gonna, once you have that information, you're just never gonna get it. Nobody's gonna be able to take it all from you, especially
Right.
with the deep seated, you know, levels of Mossad and everything. They're just everywhere.
Right.
That's why I think they'd be more prone to that Samson option than losing their nuclear rights. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. If they ever got wind that America was going to probably try to come and take their nukes, we would probably see the Samson option in our lifetime.
Right. Right. So, just to wrap up here, last story. I thought that first one would probably take a lot longer and maybe take up the whole show, but hey, it's okay. This is a big one. It's big. Like, there's going to be a lot of reaction to this over the next week or two.
Yeah.
Even more so than the Douglas Murray. You've never been?
Yeah.
With
Never
Dave
been.
Smith. By the way, I'm gonna get a soundboard one of these days, and that "you've never been" is gonna be one of the things. I'm just gonna push a button and it'll pop up.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that.
Get the soundboard going. Yeah. Never
Yeah.
been. What's the one that Myron uses all the time? Like the Bombaclat one? Bombaclat.
yeah.
I don't even know what the hell that means. It's just funny.
It's young people are using Bombaclot now. It goes along with Skibbity and Riz and all that stuff.
Yeah, right. All the new lingo.
Yep.
Aura farming.
But since I just said some of those cool words, this should, you know, tell the algorithm that we're cool to the young people and send it to them. So we risen or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Doomsday plane. Thank you, Jamie. That's what we're going to get to here. Luke Rakowski put this out, and thank you for saying that, Andrea. Guys, make sure you're liked and subscribed, sub, all that good stuff. Sub if you, where'd they go? Sub
She
if you want
belongs to the streets. Yeah, that one's good too. I like that one.
Yeah. I'm gonna maybe have to take some suggestions.
Yeah, because all I got
Discord.
is this is all I can really do that's different. I'm gonna start doing it more when people people say I have a voice filter, and I'm just gonna turn that on the whole stream.
Oh yeah.
You just
Oh,
have to
I didn't
look
even
at
hear
that.
anything. Did you push a button?
Yeah, did it not go?
I didn't hear it.
Did it not change?
No.
Oh, I know why. Hold on.
We're messing around.
How about now?
Oh yeah. No, you sound normal. No, you sound normal. Is that supposed to be deeper or something?
Yeah, it's supposed to be deeper.
I think it actually got higher.
No way. What does it say on?
I have a couple different ones.
I'll just go through them. We'll see.
We
have like 8 different.
Makes sense here.
Yeah, it's all of them.
That's funny. Yeah, the one that's supposed to make you deeper actually made you higher.
That's
But
funny.
anyways, Luke Rakowski
funny.
posted this. This is also reckless and dangerous. The people cheerleading all of this do not know what they are calling for. This is all so bad. And I generally trust Luke's takes on things. So I'm curious. He posted this New York Post article here, which we'll just go to and have a look at. Let me take a quick drink before we read through. So the USEB Doomsday plane makes unexpected flight to DC as Trump weighs Iran strike. This looks like he's telling reporters that it's very late for talks, which I made the joke earlier in the show. They've had, you know, decades to talk and they haven't come out with it. So I mean, at least Trump tried the 60 days, but that pressure didn't work. I also wanted to add too that, you know, when he was positioning the planes, moving the bombers around and stuff like that, I feel like that was also kind of like, you know, maybe like a warning up, you know, ahead of time to like, look, you got 60 days. We're going to move ourselves into position to kick the shit out of you in the meantime. So when the 60 days is up, and they didn't buy it. They didn't negotiate. So I don't know.
Right. Right. And, and they issued, and that's one thing I added in there too, but we don't have to put it on screen. It's pretty easy to understand. They put out a response earlier today that they said there is no way they're going to negotiate under duress. They will not duress under these negotiate under these conditions.
Mhm.
Because I believe multiple times Trump's come out and said he's not even trying to get a ceasefire. So maybe that's what they're wanting. It's like at least call a ceasefire, then we'll come to the negotiations table. But if you're not even willing to do that, we're not having any kind of negotiations. So I don't even know what to make of it. I'm kind of resigned to the fact that we're going to see the U.S. strike either by tonight or tomorrow. I do think that we're going to kind of push it along a little bit because I don't think Iran at this point, I think they're refusing it entirely. And they're going to go down swinging. And then you see they're kind of pulling with the Islamic forces, right? Which they had called upon, I believe, Pakistan, Turkey, and somebody else as well to come join them. I feel the beginning of the the World War III starting to ratchet up here too, because I am more so curious what China's response will be than I am Russia, because I think Russia's already kind of said like they're staying hands off, but at the same time, I think
yeah, that's a good point. Just to your point, real quick, one of the air missile defense systems that they had, that they given or whatever to Iran has been destroyed, and they have a better one, and they're not giving up that to Iran, from what I understand. They have a better one that they're using currently against Ukraine.
Yeah.
And they're not giving that up. So they are holding back. Russia is. Just to your point. I just to jump in, didn't want to cut off your full thing there.
No, you're good. I was just going to add that I think the reason why they're not getting full in is because they might be so preoccupied with dealing with Ukraine and the war on their front, that it's kind of limiting them and how much they can help. And then you end up getting with China, right? Like, I think China, if they don't get directly involved, you may see more moves on Taiwan. I'm just really curious that China's not done anything besides, give evacuation announcement to their citizens. I would have expected we would have seen more Chinese involvement. But even with that, though, North Korea they've voiced their, support for Iran. But again, North Korea is kind of a puppet state. So, what does that really mean either?
Right. For real. I don't think anybody's taking North Korea too seriously.
No.
But yeah, that is interesting with China's involvement in, on the tail end of this, is Iran going to be like, what the fuck are we in BRICS for? Y'all didn't come and save us. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So
which
I don't know.
Maybe could be a good thing, right? Because imagine all the other nations that see that and they're like, you're telling me like we're in this alliance, you're not even helping like the third biggest power in here. Like I'm sure Brazil doesn't feel good about that, right? They're
Right.
probably looking at that and they're like, okay, maybe we should pull out of this alliance, guys.
Well, and additionally, you would think that China and even Russia would want Iran to be nuclear, considering they would be the third. Well, not even the third, because India is in there. Like the multiple, nuclear powerhouses in there. But there's still that limitation for whatever reason. Maybe it's just because they know that they don't want them to have it too. Like, we're not trust y'all motherfuckers either.
Right. It turns into like that Spider-Man situation, right? They're all pointing at each other. It becomes a Mexican standoff.
Yeah. Like, help. And also I think that China's just they're more self-interested, right? If they're going to do anything, it's going to take Taiwan.
Right.
They would rather spend all of their time and energy something that's going to benefit them. What is really in it for them to help Iran? They basically put themselves in the same position the United States has put ourselves in as it relates to supporting Ukraine. You know what I mean? Right. It would almost be like the same exact thing if China was supporting Iran with aid, not fighting us directly. Right. Even though we would all say we're fighting China, which is funny because everybody over there says they're fighting the United States because they are. Yeah, it would be very similar to, you know what I mean? Like how the scenarios would be. So I don't know. I think that China would just be better off staying out of the whole Middle East situation, just like I think the United States would have been better off staying out of Ukraine. It would have served our self-interest
Yeah, well, I guess even if they weren't like, if they don't have like the defensive pact, right? Which, a defensive alliance is one that obviously is on the grounds that if they get attacked, we're going to come defend you. Even if it is an economic one, it still makes me think like, wouldn't both Russia and China have extreme interest in the Persian Gulf?
Mhm.
And not letting that, be entirely dominated by, US controlled, forces and other
Yeah.
states that are, aligned with us.
Mhm.
That's kind of what makes me think like, I'm kind of shocked we've not seen more move through there, because I've always been under the belief, or at least that from what I've read, that the strong interest in Iran from both of those other countries is largely because what they get from them in terms of access inside the Middle East. So I don't know. Maybe that then implies the other nations aren't fearing this going beyond maybe the strikes, and then we get negotiations. I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So continuing here, one of America's Doomsday planes made flight into Joint Base Andrews in Washington, D.C. Tuesday night as President Trump weighs whether to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. The E-4B Night Watch, which was designed to protect the Secretary of Defense and other national security officials to keep the government operating in the time of nuclear war, was spotted by flight trackers and made a long, winding route to the Capitol. The aircraft left Bossier City, Louisiana, just before 6 p.m. on Tuesday and landed in Maryland at 10 p.m. after skirting the coast and looping around the border of Virginia and North Carolina. Data from flight tracking site flight radar shows. And so,
It's a massive plane, dude.
yeah, this is it right here. It's humongous. For sure, you can see some people standing next to it for kind of a scale.
Yeah.
And then here's
It's
the flight
tiny.
track that it took, which is kind of interesting. It took the scenic route. I don't know why it did the loop around right here, but well, interesting. Maybe they're testing the fuel capacity or something. I don't know what, they needed to add some time to it and just doing some testing or something like that. But
No idea. Aviation, I'm clueless about. So it's probably like maybe some kind of like status quo thing they normally do.
yeah,
Right. Maybe some like flight pattern type thing.
this is actually the true path of commercial airlines when you fly from
Yeah,
Shreveport,
as
Louisiana.
normal as it gets.
This is what DEI hiring pilots gets you.
Yeah, they'll find their way eventually. We always get. That's why planes come with 2 gas tanks now instead of 1. I didn't realize though it was after 9, so I do have to bounce though.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I'm just gonna finish this one up and we'll call it a show. But
I was gonna say I'll try to jump in the chat afterwards as soon as I get a hold of my daughter out there. I can hear her yelling in the other room, or talking, I should say, not really yelling. The Crisis King. Appreciate everybody for being here. Sorry that I got kicked out because of the storm and the power. That kind of sucked a little bit, but at least it stayed on.
it's okay. I'm glad you made it back.
Yeah, no, and no hard feelings, anybody. I know these things get contentious. We just appreciate you guys being here, and to tell you what, I'm gonna, as soon as I get off here, I'm slamming the absolute shit out of my wife. I'm gonna throw her through a wall for putting that stuff in the chat.
And I'm gonna yell.
Yeah, and I'm gonna yell at my child. No, I'm not gonna do any of that. Just kidding. Who knows? But peace out.
No. I don't know if you heard or saw the chat earlier where it said it probably sounds soothing to hear you yell at your wife and or whatever.
It's funny. I maybe to. Well, I enjoy hearing it. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Like I just play my own videos on repeat. That's how I sleep to my own voice.
That's funny. Me listening to my own video is why I started looking up how to stop saying and now I don't really ever watch my own videos anymore.
I know,
hate to
right?
hear how I sound.
Yeah, that's a pet peeve of mine too. I've been trying to stop saying or ah, but as long as you're conscious of it, you'll work it out of your vocabulary eventually. And that's what we're
Exactly.
we're working towards. 10 years, 5 years from now, everything will be smooth sailing.
And then you become one of the greatest orators of our era.
Right.
But no, thanks everybody. I do appreciate it. And I'll probably see you guys tomorrow on stream, possibly, but we'll see. But peace out.
Later, dude. All right, so we're just going to finish this up. And by the way, thanks to Atlas. Make sure you guys click the link in the description to his channel down below and subscribe to Atlas Thugged. While you're at it, click on the America First. That's my channel. And then, of course, since you're here on the jar openers, definitely make sure that you're subscribed and have that notifications turned on. Share this with all your friends, all that good stuff. Appreciate everybody. Let's see here. You guys are cracking me up in chat. Been a little heated in chat too, but you know, like TNT said, when you get a bunch of alphas around, you know, the good thing is we don't hold our grudges. But continuing here, confusion was sparked after the flight issued an unusual call sign, Order 01, instead of the usual Order 6, according to flight data. The U.S. fleet of 4 E-4Bs makes regular flights year-round to maintain military readiness. The E-4B serves as an airborne command center for the President, Secretary of Defense, and chairs of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to ensure continued critical command, control, and communication in case of emergencies. Each E-4B night watch can contain a crew of up to 112 people and has a range of more than 7,000 miles. I'm assuming because of this picture, it looks like it can probably refuel in the air as well. So their importance to the U.S. Air Force is demonstrated in the fact that they feature unique capabilities which cannot be copied in any other U.S. Air Force aircraft. They're capable of withstanding nuclear blasts, cyber attacks, and electromagnetic effects, and are equipped to fire retaliatory missiles. So what you're saying is, I got to get me one of these. Wow, this is pretty awesome. So the aircraft also has thermal and nuclear shielding and can communicate with anyone, anywhere in the world, thanks to the 67 satellite dishes and antennas contained in its radome. Dang, they're designed to remain airborne and operate in flight for an entire week without needing to land, and can also refuel in midair. Oh, I couldn't imagine spending a week nonstop in a jet. Oh, that'd be terrible. I'd be like, roll the windows down. I gotta get some fresh air. This is killing me. Oh, man. TT, you're right. Nobody says dad when they're dying. Everybody wants their mom. I bet that's because the mom has outlived the dads. I don't know. That's right. I hate flying with a passion too, Tix. Even though you're the Tix bomber. It's like I always got a bad memory to delete afterwards. Dropping bombs. Let's see here. So continuing here, the longest an EB4 has been known to stay in the air is 35.4 hours with 8 bunks, a briefing room, teamwork area, conference room, command room, and designated rest area spreads across 3 decks. The aircraft is designed to be a flying pentagon in the event of a national emergency. George W. Bush's Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld used the E-4B as his primary mode of transportation. Well, I would. It's got missile capability and all this cool stuff. Like, that's the one I'm flying in. I'm targeting all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I could never fly again and be happy. That's for sure. I always end up getting stuck in the middle of like fat people and stuff. Their legs like pushing on each other. I just don't like it. I'm generally uncomfortable. Got back issues. You could take him with one beard tied behind your back. Haven't flown since 99. That's good. Still waiting for Y2K. That's really funny. So they went on and said the mission may be linked to increased presidential security amid soaring tensions in the Middle East. Some observers suggested the U.S. Air Force is in the process of replacing its fleet of E-4B Night Watch aircraft. Last April, a $13 billion contract was signed with Sierra Nevada Corporation to develop a replacement for the aircraft. The aviationist reported, why? The thing seems cutting edge badass. I don't know. We always got another badass undiscovered, classified technology that they can implement that we'll never know about. So maybe they're going to add that to it. But it comes as President Trump demands Iran's unconditional surrender as a conflict between the Iranian regime and Israel has intensified. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei rejected President Trump's calls on Wednesday, despite the latest airstrike on Tehran, forcing thousands to flee the Iranian capital. At least 224 people have been killed in Iran since Israel launched its bombing campaign on the Islamist region last week. 2 Iranian government aircraft left the country's airspace on Wednesday bound for Oman, flight radar data shows. This sparked speculation that the senior Iranian leadership were either fleeing their besieged country or that emergency peace talks were set to take place in the Omani capital, Muscat. So hopefully it's the second one. If it's the first one, it looks like regime change will be easy because the remaining guys are peacing out. But which is probably going to be inevitable. To be honest, I think regime change is probably, since they're talking about it so much, I think it's just inevitable at this point. But hopefully the second part of that is true, where the speculation that they're fleeing to partake in emergency peace talks. So we'll pray for that peace talk to go well, if it was a peace talk, right? So with that, I want to talk about one more story. I was going to wrap up there, but I want to talk about one more story. I just found out about this before the show, and I probably should have saved this for Atlas, because I bet he has a take on it. But I thought this was cool. So Young Hoon Kim, the world's highest IQ record holder, has publicly affirmed his Christian faith, declaring Jesus Christ as God, the way and the truth and the life. So this is really cool. He actually made a statement here, and I haven't heard this yet. It's 3 minutes. So I'm kind of curious what he has to say. I'm just going to go ahead and play it here for you guys.
In this video, I would like to share my idea, my thoughts about afterlife. I think our consciousness continues beyond death, definitely. Our consciousness is not just brain activity, but it is something deeper. I think you believe this. Science says that when the brain stops, then our consciousness disappears. You believe this now, but quantum physics says that information never disappears. Never. It only changes in forms. If our consciousness is quantum information, it may continue after the body is gone. For example,
so he's using like quantum physics to basically say that there's a soul, right?
Like computer data stored in the cloud, our consciousness may not be trapped in the brain. Quantum entanglement suggests that our consciousness is part of a bigger system beyond the physical world. Some scientists and philosophers believe that our world may be a simulation created by a higher dimension of being, which I believe.
He's so smart. Why does he look stupid? It just goes to show we don't judge a book by its cover, I guess.
If this is true, then the death is not the end, but a shift to another reality.
Sounds familiar.
Just like a video game character disappears, but the player still exists. Our consciousness may continue in a higher dimension like this. Many people with near-death experience says they saw their bodies from above or felt warm light and deep peace. They say they felt warm light and peace. These
Was it in the shower?
experiences seem like moving from one system to another, I think. So, if reality is part of something bigger, then death is not the end, but it is a transition, shift to another reality. Science is growing now, and we are learning more about consciousness and reality. Our death is not destruction, but change and shift. Humanity will keep searching for the truth about what comes after life. Thank you.
So, in conclusion, he came out and said, I believe that Jesus Christ is God, the way, the truth, and the life. So, yeah, we got the smartest guy in the world on our team, according to IQ. Anyways, I thought that was really cool. Applying a scientific approach and then settling on this reality, which I believe, and I think a lot of us here believe, is the truth, that Jesus Christ is God, the way, the truth, and the life. So, cool. I love it. And, with that, I'll just ask you guys one more time, make sure you're double checked that you are subscribed. Make sure to check the description for the links to my other channel and Atlas's other channel, and show us a little love over there as well. We do have a Discord, and if you'd like to plug into that community, that link is in the description, and you're more than welcome to join. It's a kind of an iron sharpens iron type of place, and there's a lot of things to offer folks there. And you saw a little bit of in chat here where we disagree on stuff, but we come to our resolutions. We agree that we can disagree. And what else? What else we got? Yeah, and I'll just remind everybody that we do the show every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And we go for a couple hours. Sometimes we run long like today. And I wanted to remind folks, too, that the Saturday show has been crushing it lately. Not necessarily in views, but on being ahead of the news cycle. What we're talking about on Saturday is what everybody else talks about on Monday. So if you want to find out what's going on before everybody else on Monday, especially the biggest things in culture and politics as it relates to the United States, make sure you're here for the Jar Openers podcast on Saturdays. What else? And I think, with that, I'm working on a couple other guests. I got to follow up with some people. Hopefully we can have Cool Vic back on sometime soon. And so let me close this out. I'm going to look up the verse of the day here in the YouVerse Bible app. So this is Hebrews 5, verse 7. During the days of Jesus's life on earth, he offered up prayers and petitions with fervent cries and tears to the one who could save him from death. And he was heard because of his reverent submission. So pray passionately, everybody. That's Hebrews 5, verse 7. And with that, I'll just say thank you guys for being here. Have their best chat on YouTube. And Christ is King. We'll see you guys on Saturday.
With war rolling and with thug, we here to bring the truth. Jar open this podcast, we breaking through the fake news. They try to silence us, but we will be subdued. We're bearded alpha males here to save the youth. Spitting fire on the mic with the bass, Christian takes. Exposing the lies, keeping the demons at bay. We ain't afraid to speak up, we won't be swayed. Jar open this podcast, where the truth is laid. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas thug, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. We ain't playing games, we're on a mission to awaken the masses with our intuition. Pulling out the corruption with no inhibition. Jar open this podcast, sparking a revolution. We're not afraid to stand tall in a world full of deceit. We're the voice of reason, bringing light to the street, keeping it real, never missing a beat. Jar open this podcast, where the truth meets the heat. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas thug, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. Jar open this podcast, where the truth will never cease. Join us on the journey to bring back peace. We're rolling Atlas thug, fearless in our release. Jar open this podcast, where the lies will decrease.